Bum ba dum ba dum bum bum. And let's bring this down to there. And hello. Bada boom. Yeah. Hello and welcome. I actually have someone that started watching me before I even fully finished starting up the broadcast. Yes. Excellent. Now, I've gotten a bit of attention recently for some of the miniatures that I sculpted for Daniel H's Lost Dragons Kickstarter. And cool. I will say that what I am currently working on in the background that you're not going to see yet has nothing to do with Dragonborn, and I don't think there's going to be anything draconic about it at all. But it should be rather interesting anyway. So, welcome to the show, and today I'm going to be sculpting something. It will probably be goblin related, because I'm still working on the whole goblin horde thingy. But exactly what, I'm not quite sure. I'll just wing it. Isn't that always fun? But yeah, it'll be a 32mm miniature. I mean, let me go ahead and look around this crazy fur ball here. I mean, yeah. As it is, I've got prints of the two regular-sized gobos. Yeah. You know, I've finished. I've got them all printed out and set up. And hey, Andy! And then I've got a print of the Goblin Warlock, or Witch Doctor, or whatever you want to call him. I don't have the Hobgoblin Sergeant printed up yet. But that's just because... No, Carlton. No, little buddy. I have a cat that's wanting to get on camera. You fuzzy butt. No, down you go, little buddy. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to be sculpting a probably something related to hobgoblins. Okay, so what we do is we go ahead. We're going to get that infinite screen for a second. And then from here, we just go straight over here. And this is our basic geometry. I've been asked, I'm going to go ahead and say it again, what happened is I created this basic geometry. Let me go ahead and wire texture frame. In a program called 3D Studio Max. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. I then brought it into Daz Studio, which is this program here. I rigged it here, and then set it up to have different morphs, or blend shapes. And what these blend shapes do is they let me turn it into Fishman, a gnome, an ogre, or, ogre, or any number of different little critters that I've been working on, up to and including the little itty bitty kobold, or more appropriately for what we're doing now, a goblin. So we got ourselves a goblin. Now I've already done two basic troopers there, with short sword type weapons. I need to make either a spearman or a bowman, maybe a couple, but for today only one. And hello, Kim. Yes, Carlton is the YouTube sensation, not me. Oh, he's run off to go get dinner. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm thinking, we need to make somebody that's got something unusual, some kind of great spear weapon or crossbow or bow. How about a scythe? Yes, a big old nasty pokey thing. As it is, I need to go ahead and, with this scythe selected, go to the back view, and I need to move its center into his hand in case I need to do any tweaking. That's this button right up top here. It looks like a bone with a pencil over it because that's exactly what it is. And then I go to the left view and I drag it to the center of where the hand is. Then I'm going back to the back view and going to the regular tool. This right here is the movement tool. This is selection tool. I'll use this if I want to do mostly things here. As it is, I do kind of need to move it so it's a bit more balanced in the hand. You see, one thing is the weapons are placed and positioned properly for the basic human shape. So sometimes we need to change them to fit where we're going. So like I could move it out to here a little bit, for example. Now, what we need to do first, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this arm up a lot. The reason being is because when I drop him to the ground, I don't want the tip of that really big scythe being what's touching the ground. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pose our goblin. Actually, let's give him, instead of the usual tunic skirt, let's give him a full robe skirt. He's going to be our Halloween goblin. Yeah. And hide it. Now, for posing it, let's see. Well, first of all, as usual, we'll start off with the hips. We're going to rotate the hips a little bit. We're going to have him, like, reared back, ready to chop. So, once again, I'm going to stand so I can take that pose and see how it feels and try and judge what angles to move the body parts. Okay. So, the hip cocks to the side. And, okay, there we go. That's what I needed to feel. So the hip cocks this way. We're going to twist it forward just a little bit. And that's also going to give us the side effect of giving him a little bit bent forward on the hip. Now, we're going to side in this leg, but we're also going to bend it out a little. Actually, we don't need to side to side. And we're going to twist it that way. Bend the knee. And we'll deal with the, we need to twist it a little bit more. If we want that going up. Okay. And hello, Carlton. As he just jumped on and dragged my game case book off the little table it's on. Okay. Now we're going to grab this. We're going to twist it that way because we're going to bend the leg back. Now, we're going to side to side it and make it go back a little bit like that, simply for the sake that this is, actually we need to make him, let's pin this foot. And we need to make it twist a little bit more and side to side a good bit more. And then lower it down. Then we're going to drag this foot to the ground. We're going to untwist it. And we need to rotate it. And move it. Now, one thing we need to do is we need to undo the side-to-side motion of the calf. And then we're going to go ahead and unpin it. I said unpin. So that we can kind of get it in the right spot and then bend it a bit more. We're got to make sure that the calf is a 0 side to side, because your thigh does not bend like that. Your knee doesn't bend like that. We're going to bring this leg forward a bit, but out to the side a little bit more. And we're going to twist the foot and bend it. There. Bend the foot even more. No, not quite that much, because we need to bend this calf a bit. And then bend the toe. That is going to be our basic lower body. We're going to go ahead, go back to the front view, and go down to the full front view, and we're going to zoom in on those feet, because we want to make sure that the feet are parallel to where the ground would be. As a side to side. Bing! That foot's perfect. So we need to unbend the... There we go. Then we're going to twist toe and unbend it a bit. Yeah, we're going to need to unbend the calf a little bit more. And there. And then we're going to untwist it a little bit there. Perspective view. Then we're going to take the chest and abdomen. We're going to twist them both at the same time. We're going to side to side the abdomen a little bit and bend it forward just a little bit, so that we can take our chest and just the chest and bend it way back and way side to side. Then we're going to bring the... Yeah, that's what we need to do. We need to grab this and drag it down so that this hand is closer to the blade. We're going to twist the collar and bring it up. Then we're going to twist the upper arm. This is going to be a... Alright. So... it needs to be up like this. So my twist. And then the bend comes back here. Going to twist a little bit. Actually, I need to unbend it a little because that's a little bit too far. It's going to be harder for the other arm to reach. Actually, then we're going to side to side this arm. We can go forward a bit more, weight over back behind. Then we're going to grab this collar. We're going to bring it forward. Instead of the collar, not the entirety of the thing. Yeah, thank you. Forward and twist. Raise. Bring this forward. I see. Let's go from here and make this a bit. Right. There we go. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, let's kind of turn it a little. And we're going to have to untwist the chest and abdomen. That's twisting this a little bit too far. So we're going to... Now we're going to twist the forearm. And then we're going to unside the side. That a little bit. We're going to twist it even more. Now if we bend this arm here, we can sit there and actually get it into position a little bit better. And now that we got this hand into position, we're going to start playing around with its position. Yeah, there. The thumb is going to come out to here. And we're going to bend the thumb like that. Actually, let's go ahead and twist the thumb so it's up against there. There we go. Now we're going to select the lower hands. We're going to bend them. Let's unbend the thumb just a little bit. And then bend these fingers. Now we're going to go ahead, we're going to drag it down just a little bit. And forward just a little bit. There we go. Now, when we zoom in, except for the head, the pose is pretty dynamic and gobbly. So now what we're going to do is the head is actually going to come way... Oh, no, not the whole thing. The head, starting at the neck, is going to bend back, twist. It's going to bend a little bit more. But we don't want him completely looking forward, because that will... Number one, his chin will start penetrating his chest. And number two, it'll stop looking as weirdly chaotic. Now that we've got the jaw selected, we're going to open it. And then we're going to take each of these, we're going to take this brow, we're going to Z-rotate it to give us a bit more anger. We're going to X-rotate it up just a little and Y-rotate it out just a little to make it larger and more ferocious than the other brow, as you can kind of compare that one to that one. So now we've got it selected, we're going up here and we're going to symmetry. We could also hit Shift Y, but it's probably better for me to actually show you. And we want to change the direction from right to left. Accept. And it took the selected body parts, and you can see it's now also got that more ferocious left eyebrow. And what we have is our basic Doom Scythe goblin. Well, I better not call it Doom Scythe, because that's actually, there's something copyrighted called that. But yeah, let's bring We can either have it all the way back down to here, or all the way out to here, but all the way out to here we'll have problems with the miniature itself balancing. This is probably the most off balance we can make it and still be printable. And that does really look like he's about to go keeling over backwards, doesn't it? Reaper Gobbo. Yeah. Blarg! Like an evil minion, almost. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do this a bit early. I'm going to import bases, base Rocky, accept. And now we're going to select that Rocky guy, go from the front, and slide it down until his feet are mostly visible. We're going to Y rotate it a lot, just kind of get a decent positioning there. Okay, so now we can bring it up just a little bit more. And we're going to bring it back a bit more, because the way he's positioned, we want to make sure that as much of that scythe as possible is over the base. Otherwise, we could have some issues with not just being off balance, but just the whole miniature actually being off balance. So we're going to rotate it there and bring it a little bit further forward. And this is the basic shape and pose for our goblin. Our goblin with a big old scythe. Yay! Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and expand him. We're going to hide the scythe and the rocky bottom. And we're just going to export the Gobbo himself. Export. Let's see, that'll be under broadcast, new, scythe, gob, body. Okay, we accept. Now I'm going to make the scythe visible and the goblin invisible. Actually, no, let's not make it the scythe. Let's make the next one the robe. Now, one thing I'm going to do while I'm thinking about it, I forgot to tweak the thighs. So, we're going to go ahead. The right thigh is twisted 18.33. So the right thigh of the robe is going to be twisted negative 18.33. The left thigh of the of the figure is twisted 51.67. So this left thigh will be negative 51.67. The end result is it helps out a lot with the back especially, but it makes it a little bit easier for us to tweak the front. I mean, you can see this. We're going to have to grab and move the robe above his feet, but we were going to have to do that anyway. So, file, export, and scythe. I know I'm not putting the E in scythe. You can't read it here, but you can read it up there. Scythe, sith, gob, rob. Now we're going to hide the robe and make the war scythe visible. File, export, sith, gob, scythe, with the E this time. And then we're going to make it invisible. Oh, no, not him visible, it invisible. And make the base visible. Bing! File, export, sith, gob, base. Accept. Okay. Now, before we do the magic trick of where we're going next, I got a little bit of Coca-Cola. And they stopped having the names on them. Oh well. So now, let's switch ZBrush. This is a completely blank document straight when you first start ZBrush. You click on this little star, click and drag it in. If you hold down Shift when you drag in the star, then no matter where you move the mouse as you're dragging it in, it stays vertical. I hit Edit, and now I can move them. And now when I hit Shift, in the middle of a turn, it'll snap to whatever cube side, left, right, front, back, top, bottom, is closest to the direction we're going. Also, you'll notice over here, those of you that started using ZBrush, dynamic perspective, best seen in a situation like this. It's a simulated forced perspective. I don't use it when sculpting, but I do use it if I'm going to do like a turnaround. In fact, that's something we're going to do tonight after we finish actually making the model. We're going to do and record a turnaround. Now, the recording saves as an MPG. I usually go ahead and take that MPG. There's several different websites you can use to turn it into a GIF. Several different apps you can use. Anyway, we're going to import from Broadcast Miniatures new ScytheGob body. And here we go. Now, before we do anything else, doing this much of a drastic change to the underarms will cause some issues, so I'm going to go ahead and smooth it just a little bit before we deal with it. We can come back in and sculpt in some further details later. But for right now, we're just going to try and clean out that part and this right here. Alright, now let's frame out. This is front on. So we're going to go back to Subtool, Append, and choose a little star. Import ScytheGob robe. Or ScytheGob robe. Append, Polymesh. Import the scythe. We're going to leave that for now because what we're going to do, we're going to hide the scythe. And before we do anything else, we're going to play with the robe for a bit. And what we're going to do with the robe is we're going to use Move. We're going to first move it in. And smooth it quite a bit to kind of get it in there with him. So that it will smooth easier when we come around to actually fusing it. Oh God. I hate it when I can hear commercials in the other room that I utterly despise. Let's smooth that wrinkle there. And I'm going to make the move tool a lot bigger. Just a good bit. And I'm going to pull it out. And then just a little bit of smoothing. A little bit up. Yeah. And then we're going to do something similar over here. We're going to kind of move this out. Because what this will do is this will help us get it in position for later. Now we need to grab the back here and we need to kind of drape it back. Just because we want some of it coming back like this for motion and momentum, like we did with the Mad Mage, but we don't want it all coming out. We also want it to come up a little bit like this, so that the bottom of the one foot over here is visible. We only want the toe of this foot visible. Let's lower that and bring up that. Now we need to bring out underneath here. So we're going to grab and pull it out like this. We're going to drag out underneath. And what this will do is we will then shrink the mouse a bit, and with the smoothing down, we're going to smooth this section. So it's not, you know, glued to his legs. It's still following the legs, but it's not like it's super glued to them. It's more like it's following the motion of the legs. And now let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. And a little bit bigger, I said, thank you. And drag out back here. And maybe drag some back here. Once again, this will help us counteract the apparent weight of the scythe. Or at least it will appear to. In truth, most of the scythe's weight is still going to be above the base. It's just it's going to feel off balance and leaning to the back. Like he's doing that. Ah, thud. Just to show you, we're going to go ahead and append the base. We're going to hide it for most of the rest of this session. I mean, you can see that the only things that are directly outside of the base is this portion of the head. Most of it, plus all of the goblin, everything except this portion of the handle, is directly over the base. And this kind of moves its center of gravity to right about here. Well, I don't know if you can see the mouse or not. Yeah, it looks horribly off balance, but it's really not. Now, I will say, this will probably be tricky to print. And as such, you know, you just might want to be careful some of these supports. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to hide the base and the axe, and the scythe, and we're going to merge down the body into the robe, and I go always okay. Then I'm going to frame it in, and now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to increase the resolution, because we want a high resolution smooth surface, you know, so that we can't see any polygons unless we move in close before we dynamesh at 768 and a blur of 0. Dynamesh! Bing! And now you can see all of a sudden that sharp edge right here turned into almost what looks like a zipper. We're going to increase the intensity up to full, and we're going to smooth out that zipper. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back over some of these areas, and then I'm going to just hit the number 1. And it's going to be hard to see, but it's going to be, if you look carefully at the butt, right over here, it's going to actually fully smooth it a bit more. And now we're going to do it down here just because we want a little bit smoother coming off the butt. And the end result is that. Now we come up here to the front, and this will be easier to see. You can see a little bit of it, but watch this highlight right here. As I hit the number 1, it's going to shrink and almost completely vanish, then it's going to completely go away. as we're blending it in to a nice smooth. Now I think we want to keep this angle a little bit right here on this hip. It'll help us keep our angles right. And now it's all part of it. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to give him a belt. But the question is, what kind of belt? Are we going to give him just like a little rope with bits and pieces of the robe sticking up? Or are we going to give him, big old pro wrestling WWE, from Summer Scythe 6419? Yeah, 6419. It's the address of the Summer Scythe. Kim wants a rope. Well, I know Kim's not the only one there watching, because I see there's at least 5 of us watching, counting me. Oh, sad. But, come on. What kind of rope? What kind of belt? You want a rope? You want a big old thing? Rope with charms, like a charm bracelet. Well, I don't know about charms, but I can put on some sacks and pouches and maybe a potion. How about that? Okay, so what we're going to do... I'm going to turn off Dynamesh, and we're going to turn on Subdivide, because this will give us a more accurate right. It'll give us a more accurate thing. Now the problem with the problem with doing the rope is we will have to have a knot. You gotta tie the knot, It's required. It's almost guaranteed required. Okay, now, the next thing that we're gonna do, though, is broke out tablet. Don't you like my... Yeah. I gotta, in brightest day, in blackest night, no evil. Okay, I get back to work. Yeah, that is my stylus holder. And hello, TJ. Welcome. Now, let's go ahead. Let's zoom in just a little bit and move him over here. I'm moving him over there just slightly off to the left because I'm going to be drawing the rope from right to left, and it's going to be moving my... Oh, forgot to focal shift. Okay, and it's going to move the center of my pivot to where I stopped drawing, which is going to be right there. So when I rotate, oh no, it didn't. It went from the start of the pivot. It never can make up its mind. Okay, then we're going to come up a little bit and back down. And then we're going to draw across from here. Now, to make it look like a rope, what I did was I turned off double-sided on extraction. Way extraction works. Let's pick up this box. Oh, dice. Anyway, so let's say I paint on a surface on this. I then extract it. Under normal circumstances, it will take those polygons, move them out in the direction of their normal. Their normal is the direction the polygon is facing. The flat faces this way. The edge faces that way. The point faces kind of at an angle to all of them. It moves them out in this direction, and it moves it in the same amount. And then it connects to two surfaces, and boom, you've got new geometry. For something like adding on a sleeve, that's great, because when we relax it, it's going to relax towards the skin. But for rope, since it's going to be resting on the surface now, when we go to smooth it, what'll happen is it'll smooth it more toward, instead of like that, rounding it like that, it's going to round it like that, like it's a rope resting on the surface. So I'm going to extract. No. Let me go ahead and close off that thing again. We want extract of 0.02. Extract. There we go. Accept. Now I'm going to down to Dynamesh, and I'm actually going to lower the resolution to 64. Dynamesh. Now when I subdivide, I get this kind of erratic rope. Let's see, where would his belt danglies would tend to go down to here. So I'm going to draw one rope coming from this knee up to there, and the other one coming back like that. I'm then going to erase the end of it to make it a bit sharper. Like the sharper image catalog for goblins. And I'm going to extract it. Draw, draw, and then I'm going to geometry. Oh, wrong thing. I gotta have the ropes selected. Geometry. I'm gonna make it 96 instead of 128. Instead of 64. Dynamesh. Now I'm going to use the move tool. Grab this and drag it all the way up and kind of move it. Now I'm going to remove it because I forgot it was going to blend itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do them one at a time. So make them one at a time, it'll be easier that way. Geometry 96, Dynamesh. Subdivide. No, delete lower. No, not delete lower. Go lower, delete higher. Deformation, polish. There we go. Divide, divide, delete lower. And then going back up to him, deselect that, and I'm going to draw on, whoops, extract, accept, draw, draw. Geometry 96, Dynamesh, and deformation, polish 100. And then subdivide it a couple times. I still need to give this one more level of subdivision. Now I'm going to blend or merge down all these ropes into one. And I'm going to Dynamesh them at 256. And subdivide it a bit, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw on the knot. So the first thing I've got to do is hide everything but the rope. Okay, now I'm going to draw on one piece coming up this way. And once again, it's going to be extracted with the double turned off. Extract, accept, draw, draw. I'm going to Dynamesh it at 64. And subdivide it a couple times. I'm then going to move parts of it just to kind of shift its shape a bit and make it not quite as sticky outy on this part, because this is going to be the thinnest part of the knot. I don't care about anything down here because it's going inside the, let's shrink it here. Then I'm going to actually no, let's go ahead and divide it another couple times. Now coming back up here, I'm going to shrink this down, and I'm going to, how did I shrink it down? Yeah, I'm going to draw on here. And what this is going to do, this is going to be, center part of the knot. And I'm going to extract it, accept, draw, draw, and Dynamesh. Let's leave it let's make this one at 96. Dynamesh. And subdivide it a couple times. Then we're going to hide these two. And we're going to draw from up here. Actually, let's not hide this one, these just yet. I just wanted to mark there to there. No, we need to blend them, that's right. So this one needs that's one more subdivision level. And we're going to merge down. And we're going to Dynamesh at 256. No, that didn't look good. We're going to Dynamesh at 512. And the blur is 0. Okay. We're going to subdivide it until it's there. That should be good. And now we're going to go ahead and draw on across these. And come around this way. And we're going to make sure that we've got connection here. And we're going to go ahead and take this, and we're going to extract this. This is going to be this is going to start off really rather erratic looking. Draw, draw. But when we Dynamesh it at 96, and subdivide it a bit, we can go ahead and grow our mouse a little bit and start moving it around, just to try and make it more of a knot and less of a bit of chaos sticking out. Like this right here, we can kind of blend it up into this streak. Blend the rest of it down, pull it down, so that we can see the knot. We're also going to go ahead and polish it, just for the sake of going to smooth it quite a bit, and then hit 1. And then we're going to bring this in, we're going to flatten a little bit. This is going to be our knot. All this is just showing some areas where rope is going over rope. And like I said, a lot of this will end up being inside the rope. Let's divide it. Merge down. Now I'm going to use the slash tool to reinforce our division. I'm going up here to lazy mouse and turning off lazy mouse, and I'm lowering the strength to about 15, and shrinking the mouse. Now choosing the rope subtool. Yeah, since I had the body hidden. Yeah, if you have something hidden and select it, it'll come unhidden. No, let's make it a little bit bigger. Since I had the body hidden, when I unselected it, it went hidden again. Okay. Now we'll make the body visible again by choosing it, and then frame. That's where the knot is. Actually, let's go ahead and use the move tool. Let's move this surface here in a little. Let's move the move topological tool to do this. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to grab it and bring it down quite a bit. Bring that up quite a bit. Just want it to be like rope, not like... Yeah. Now we're going to shrink this just a little bit and smooth out this area and hit number 1 a couple times. The advantage is, instead of keeping a memory of how many times you've hit 1, it stops when you stop. And then, yeah, there we go. That's good enough for now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stick what I mentioned before, our pouches in that. We're going to put the pouch over here. And why I'm doing this is I've actually made a brush for belt stuff, like a pouch. Get big. And then while it's still selected, we're going to the move brush and making it ginormous and extremely unfocused. And we're going to grab it and drag it kind of down that way. And yeah, we're going to further tweak it later. But that's the pouch. Now on the back we're going to put on a potion. Let's make the mouse smaller. And we're going to draw it in. Actually, that's not a good spot for it. So we're going to start down here. We can assume that it's a potion of strength. And we're going to use the move topological tool. We're going to grab this tail end and kind of move it under the belt. And so he's got a potion dangling down, in addition to those. And in the front we're going to put our little sack. Those are the 3 basically presto changeo items I've made for this particular brush. Now the next thing we're going to do I'm going to select, oh, I know what we're going to do. I'm going to select that, that, and that, because they're all groups. Zoom out a bit. We're going to select the whole rest of the thing. Click. And we're going to split unmasked parts. This will give us a new subtool of all those things we just added, which really mostly just need a subdivision. But in some cases we also need to go ahead and with the move tool, not move topological, because this is, oh yeah, it would help if I took the focal shift back down. I'm gonna kind of blend it in just a little bit with how it's sitting on the, whoop, that's how it's sitting on the hip. I'm gonna kind of pull that out, pull that forward a bit, just a bit, and kind of pull it in. I'm gonna grab the back of the bag and pull it up against the hips, or against the pelvis, so that it's easier to print. We don't want it to actually be hanging like it really would. We want it to be hanging in such a way that it'll be eased the rest of it a little bit easier. Let's make this really big just so we can pull that in up against, yeah, there we go. And now let's move topological, the same thing. We're going to grab and move it in to make sure that it's, yeah. Now, he's got himself a sack, a pouch, and a potion bottle dangling from his belt. Frog hanging from his back leg. Well, first of all, that started getting more and more into shaman territory. And this guy's just more of a crazy guy. You know, like that potion is probably the potion of strength that's letting him use this ginormous scythe. Now, the next thing that we need to do, we need to go back to the body. I need to go ahead and add on the top of the skirt, the kilt. Let me get some soda before I do that, because, you know, dry throat. Now, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to go ahead and mask off the area above. Make it a little bit jumbly. The area above the belt. Okay, and I'm going to shrink it a little bit and use that to kind of add some further detail to the top. Just some jaggedy zigzags. Because whether it ended up being cloth or ended up being leather, there's going to be some kind of jagged marks. And once I've done this, I'm going to hide the belt and belt bits. Now I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and kind of, not that much bigger, and just kind of fill in the bottom. Because what's going to happen next? Well, pretty much the same thing that happens when I make sleeves. It's going to get blended in. So I'm going back to extract, but this time I'm turning on double-sided. Extract. Accept. Draw. Draw. I'm going to go back to this. Let's zoom in on it, and you can see already that, you know, you got the linear bits there. We don't want that. So we're going to go to geometry. We're going to Dynamesh it at 256. Dynamesh. And now, as you can see, it's now got multiple polygons that are of relatively the same size. We're going to subdivide it a little bit, just to look. We're going to undo that subdivision because now we bring intensity up to 100. We start blending in under here. Bring it since it's a double-sided and it's smoothing towards its own center. That means it's smoothing towards the actual skin. Now let's get this in here. Pardon for my brief silence there. My sinuses started to get a little bit irritated at me. That, and I am trying to concentrate. Now, we're going to make the belt visible. Just making sure that the belt itself is laying on top of this. So, for example, we need to shrink this in some more. Actually, we need to go ahead and use the move topological. Let's make this bigger. We're going to tilt it down. We're going to grab here and pull it back. There we go. We're going to grab here and bring it in a little bit. Other than that, it's looking like it's in the good position. So let's hide that belt. And now we're going to zoom in on it, and we're going to turn on all those subdivisions. And we're going to shrink this, and we're going to smooth out that bottom. Because doing it with the subdivisions active, and it acts a little bit funky sometimes. Like now. Okay. And here. Now, let's give it one more subdivision. Delete lower. And we're going to merge down. And we're going to dynamite. Then give it a little subdivision. Delete lower. And then we're going to smooth over the parts where it connects. And hit a 1. And we're going to basically come around and just blend this all together. Because it really needs it. And it'll help emphasize that it's a robe and not, you know, an extra waist belt. Now let's frame out. And put on our proppy bits. And yeah, that's pretty good. You got your rope holding on your props. Well, I would think that the spare frog is in the sack, TJ. You know, because you know what else is he going to have in that sack? He's got his potion on his back hip, and he's got the pouch for, you know, gold and spare teeth. Yes, spare teeth. So the bag is where he's got the frog. Now, we need to add in a little bit of detail. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start adding in some detail, of all things, to the sack. So I'm going to smooth this because that's actually going to bring it out of the rope. Okay, now I'm going to use the standard brush. I'm going to turn off Lazy Mouse, move it down, and Z-sub. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to just give a little bit of a pinch here. And then a little bit of a, let's make it a little bit bigger. A pinch here. Then I'm going to draw in some pinches. Actually, let's make it. And I'm going to blend the bottom of it. Always remember to blend the ends of your wrinkles. It smooths them out and makes them fade away instead of suddenly disappear. Now I'm going to slash. And I'm going to draw in a couple, not only the tips of these wrinkles, but also between them. Then I'm going to smooth the ends of those wrinkles. Always smooth the ends of your wrinkles. It helps make them look a bit more natural. And now, at least the bag looks a bit more like a bag with something heavy in it. The potion, well, that's going to be on the person painting. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to do some musculature. We're going to give him the muscles he needs. Going to pump him up, but no, he's not going to be pumped up. He's going to be shrunken down a bit. Going to dig in and define the muscles. A little bit of the striations in the pectorals. It's hard to say pectoral in the pseudo Austrian accent. That's right, it's Austria, not Australia. I didn't go up anywhere near the kangaroos. Gonna blend in. Let's give him a nice six-pack looking. And just a little bit of. One thing, if you ever do make a super muscular type character, one thing to remember, besides the fact that the belly button is actually down here near the thing, is that your abdomens don't match up evenly. They don't start and stop perfectly symmetrical. Now let's blend this in. I'm going to use the standard brush on the subtract. I'm going to blend subtract in onto the rib cage area and blend it out. In fact, I'm going to probably blend it using the little repeat factor here. Yeah, I'm going to then hold down the Alt key and you start getting the opposite of. If you've got it on add, it'll subtract. If you get it on subtract, it'll add. And then smooth it all out. Now, some of these hotkeys and things like that, like the number 1 and the smooth and the alternate function, I don't know how they would work with non-ZBrush. I don't know what the hotkeys would be for something like Mudbox or Sculptress or Blender. I do know that it works great for ZBrush. Okay, now I'm going to go back. I'm going to make it lower, but much larger. And I'm going to kind of drag under the pectoral here and then smooth it out. And the reason for this is because that's following the tendon and the length of the muscle. Helps us define it. Now, I'm going to draw on. It's a type of muscle that gets horribly misdrawn in comic books a lot. It's called the serratus. And so, to the point where some people think that it's supposed to be the ribs, and it's not. It's actually a series of muscles that help the rib cage move the diaphragm. Yes, it's always a good idea to have at least a vague understanding of anatomy, because the more you know, the more the rules you can break and do them in such a way that it looks okay instead of looking like, you know, a high school art assignment. And then this is the bottom of the rib cage here. He's already beginning to look like, I'm the muscle man of old goblins. I'll show you what it means to be a muscle goblin. I'm going to use inflate here to kind of blend this in. We're going to add in a little bit of muscle in the bicep area, both above and below. And what that's going to do, then smooth it out just a little. I also really should shrink this just a little bit. Now I'm going to draw on, it's called the tricep. It's like a horseshoe shape on the underside of the arm. And from here, it's where we get the muscles that shape the the upper back, really. Okay, I'm gonna blend up here. And then smooth out that. And we need to inflate it a little bit here because it's starting to, yeah, there we go. Because we want him to be a super strong goblin. Now we're going to add in forearm muscles. Real and truly, the only ones that really give any size actually come out to the sides a bit and fit in right here between the bicep and the tricep. I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. Then the one here, actually, it comes almost down this way because of the way that this arm is twisted. Let's give him a little bit better. Let's smooth that out. And we're going to get in and do some further defining of the shapes in just a second. And now we're going to come back this way. Another one that comes in under here. We're going to have to shrink this by smoothing it a couple times over. Then we're going to make out a little peak on the back of the elbow. Just make it kind of gawky. And draw, shrink the mouse and draw on a couple lines to represent some of these other forearm muscles. And once again, smooth the ends. We're going to add on a bone here and here for the wrist bones. Then when we frame out, he's looking a little bit too blobby, way too blobby. So we're going to have to smooth the whole arm. And then hit number 1 a couple times until it fades, because he's also getting a bit too large. And I'm going to come around to the back side, and we're going to do something similar over here, because this is just a bit too much, even for our muscle gob. And a little bit here. And a lot here. Okay, now we pull out. And right here needs to be smooth. That's where I'm getting a lot of my worst moments. Okay, now we're going back into slash, and we're going to very gently draw in some of our muscle. Needs to be bigger. Draw in some of our muscle separations and emphasize them, basically. It comes down this way. And it's going to come from here around here. And then let's smooth that. And draw here. We're now going to draw under here and over here to emphasize where the deltoid is. And that's where we have our muscle goblin arm. Now we got to do the same thing to the other arm. We also then need to do his back. So let's go back to inflate and let's see what you all have been saying in my absence. Get to the chopper! Yes! Don't worry, Andy, he's only this tall. I'm sure you've got bigger biceps than he does. However, he probably does CrossFit like nobody's business. You know? This is the Gabo CrossFit king. Let's come around from here and smooth it out a bit. And once again, we're going to draw on. If you're never planning on doing a barbarian or other shirtless character, then you don't really need to pay attention to what I was just talking about just then. Yeah, there we go. However, if you do, it's a good idea. You can get them almost anywhere online. You can easily find it through Google image search. Get a chart of the muscles. My base figure does not have accurate muscles. I'll give it that. It does not at all. Also, don't worry about wrinkles happening. It happens in the real world to skin. Yeah. Alright. Now, let's go ahead, draw on our elbow. And then add in, this doesn't need to twist as much. A little bit of forearm there. A little bit of forearm here. And maneuver around. And then smooth it just a bit. And smooth this just a bit. Shrink the mouse and draw on a couple of strands of the back forearm muscles and wrist bones. I'm going to smooth them just a little. Now when you frame out, he's got those arms going. Now we need to actually smooth out both this wrist bone and this elbow. In fact, we need to smooth out the elbow a lot. And we're going to take our slash brush and I'm going to kind of just draw a cut in under the bicep here. Just to kind of sharpen it a bit. And the same thing comes back around from here. A cut in under the deltoid here. And I don't need to worry too much about the one in front. But anyway, this is our muscle goblin. He needs a little bit more on his tricep area down here because of the way his arm is extended. Just a little bit. His tricep would be contracted the most and not the bicep in this particular pose. Now let's go ahead and That's way too large. Let's draw. Add on some neck muscles. And then let's use the move tool to move these part of the muscles, make them a bit more flat against his back, because it is kind of awkward. And then we're gonna smooth it and hit 1 a couple times until it looks nice and smooth. Then we're going to get our inflate brush again, and we're going to add in some muscles back here. And then we're going to, kind of come under the bottom just to, emphasize that he has a back. Alright, that should be good enough for the torso. Now, the last thing to really do is wrinkles on the robe. Then we detail the hands, maybe add some detail to the scythe itself, and our scythe bearer is done. Okay, now the robe, as you may remember, is now physically part of this dude. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to standard, because most of our wrinkles start with standard. There's a few exceptions. And before we do anything else, we're actually going to add the wrinkles above the feet. So let's draw. Oh, they got to be add. Let's draw them on. Very lightly. Just kind of follow the shape that the robe gave us here. And then let's smooth that because it kind of wobbled on us. Always smooth out the ends of your wrinkles. Always. And then there'll be another one coming this way. And we'll smooth out its end. We'll smooth out back here. Now we'll come back and sharpen and refine them when we do the rest of the wrinkles sharpened and refined. We're going to start off. There's going to be wrinkles coming down from where it's meeting the belt. And once again, we smooth out the bottoms of them. If it doesn't smooth out enough, by no matter how hard you press and how many times you do it, just tap one until it's done. Occasionally we'll go a little bit larger for some of the larger ones and blend one side of it. And again, hitting one until it looks good. And we're going to come down this way. Because this is where it hits the leg. We're going to smooth out the top of it again. We're also going to come back from here. We're going to zig up and then just zig down. Well, zig down. Let's bring it back over. Now, make it bigger. Once again, we're going to smooth the ends of our wrinkles, hitting one as we need it. Also, we need to shrink the mouse. When you shrink the mouse, it works better because it smooths only what's directly under the mouse. So the less that's under the mouse, the better. There we go. Now, one last one that's coming from here. Now let's frame out. Now we've got a couple to make right here and right here. Now we go up to slash, and we're going to start with the additional, the adding. We're going to come down on the underside of the wrinkles. Occasionally going a little bit farther than the actual wrinkle, just to kind of emphasize some things. And this we need to smooth a lot because we don't want it to overtake the rope. We want the rope to be standing out most on that side, not the wrinkles. Okay. Then we come down here. And it's actually going to be part of a meeting of wrinkles. That happens from time to time, especially in little zigzag areas. And then we're going to continue this one down and then this one around. Draw down, come down here and here, and come down here. Meanwhile, so I've been watching one show in recent days. Well, no, two. Can't lie. One American-produced show. And that one American-produced show is actually called Forged in Fire. It's about smithing. And I'm going to increase the intensity a bit. It's time to start cutting under the depths, the deepest, darkest parts of these wrinkles. And occasionally just hitting it with a little bit of smooth. Once again, you want to smooth under the end. You want to smooth the ends of your wrinkles more than anything. Okay. Okay, and then one more here. And we have the majority of our detailing done for our nice nasty little gobble. Now, I'm going to go ahead and subdivide the scythe, so that when it comes time we can put some detailing on the handle and the blade. But yeah, this is what we got so far. Yeah, Forged in Fire, what it really makes me want to do... Have any of y'all ever heard of the YouTube channel Miniac? Miniac is about painting miniatures. And he mentioned watching another YouTube channel that I watch called Alex. His name is Alex Steele, and yes, he does smithing. His whole shtick is learning something new with smithing as often as possible. Well, he wanted to paint some figure's weapon so that it looked like it was straight from the forge. And he almost succeeded, but he kind of screwed it up a little bit because he wasn't thinking, honestly. But I want to do something similar. I want to do a paint job of a figure with a weapon. Possibly this guy. That would look like his scythe is straight. And then middle ring. And then blend the knuckles to straighten it. And what this does, by blending pretty much the edges of the knuckles, we don't want to blend over the center. We want to blend everything else with the smooth brush. And what that does, that brings up the line. Let me show you on this knuckle right here. There's a bit of a line right here where the knuckle goes down and the curve of the finger goes back. That little line, by smoothing, becomes straight. And the end result is it turns these curved segments of the fingers into straight phalanges. I'll give a little bit more. Now, that's pretty good so far. We're going to go ahead and... Now here's the thing. On a goblin like this, there is no reason to draw on the fingernails. Not only will they be... unless you're making a clawed goblin of some or something, just regular sized fingernails, there's no way. They would just, fade into obscurity when you tried to print it. Okay, and now we're going to blend here, and make these weird curves and lumps into straight knuckly fingers. And once we have this done, the next thing to do is, because this uses a weird blending of the thumb, we need to kind of smooth it a bit. We also need to kind of give it just a little bit of bulging at the base and smooth it. And a little bit of palm bulge here, like it's pressing in from the handle. Okay. Now we're going to shrink the mouse again and inflate in here. Yeah. Now we're going to take the slash tool. We're going to make it same size as the finger, Z-sub, and we're going to draw in the split between the fingers. Yes, if someone makes a size, a times 400% goblin, the fingernails will be visible, but for right now, they're not. Okay, so now we go in here and we draw from here, draw out the split between the fingers, and here. and here. Okay, now let's frame out, full size, frame out some more. Okay, the only thing left to do is mess with the scythe itself. So what we're going to do with the scythe, I'm going to use a brush called, it does not come with ZBrush, it's called the Orb Crack brush. Best thing to do is go ahead and go to Google and look up ZBrush's the Orb Cracks brush. It's on Gumroad of all places. Now I'm going to leave the curve on, but I'm going to make it a little bit longer. I'm going to make it a lot deeper. And I'm going to draw on. Oh, that's right, I can't do that. I've got to Dynamesh it, because you see its polygons are really long. So now I go to Dynamesh of 512. No, that wasn't enough. Let's Dynamesh of 768. Okay. Now when I hit this, you don't see that anymore. I can do this. And just kind of wobble it just a little. And I turn. I go a little bit further away and make yet another one. I rotate a little bit more. I come here and I draw in another one. A little bit fast, a little bit straighter. I'm going to pull out a little bit and draw in one, but this time it's going to veer sharply there. Come around to here, and I'm going to do the same thing, but it's going to veer sharply outside, making kind of like a little football shape between the grooves. And then I'm going to keep doing these little grooves. And this would be the last one, kind of in between these last two. Now I come back around to here, and I'm going to draw on very carefully with a very light brush that, and then that. Oh look, back in towards it. Let's go ahead and hide the body and everything except the head. And let's see, where was that knot? That knot was up there, so next knot's going to be down here. And let's continue these lines on their own until we get to the bottom. And this one's coming out. It's going to sharply curve in, but it's going to sharply curve in and then come back out. And this time there's actually going to be a line here. This one is going to curve out but then back in. Well, I need to turn it so it's more face on. We want to try and keep these lines going and continuously, or rather keep them continuous, so that there's continuity between the at least the number, if not the general placement above and below the hand. So it looks like the hands are holding on to one object that has these striations, not multiple different striations that change between the hands. And now we have down here, we're going to draw around, come back in, come back around, and then come back up this way, and then one line here. And this is our new wooden shaft. When we make our guy visible, smaller, we're going to draw on circles. Now, why are we drawing on circles? To represent the growth rings of trees. When you cut a branch or a trunk, you'll see that. Now, the scythe. I'm thinking let's go ahead and leave the scythe as it is, the actual blade. Now we make the base visible, we frame out, and we zoom out just a little bit, and we can see everything now. I'm going to go ahead and put this up. Now, what we do, we start with the scythe goblin body, and we start merging it down until there's nothing left. Yay, it's all one piece. It's all one piece of 3.1 million scythe. We're going to dynamesh it at 1024 and 0 blur. And we go from 3.1 million polygons to 2.773. That's not a lot of gain. However, what we did gain was it's all one solid surface now. So we frame back out, and now the next thing that we're going to do is get a new soda bottle. Yes, I have spare soda. Yay! I am sponsored by Anycubit, not Coca-Cola. And now that we have him, we need to make him small enough to print in terms of polygon count. Because most slicers will go, you want me to slice how many polygons? So we go to Z plugin, we click that little button, and we go to Decimation Master. Now, Decimation Master, what we're going to do with it is we're going to, let's go to 50K. What this does, when I click this custom button, it analyzes the mesh. It rebuilds the mesh. It then calculates how many polygons and where it's going to have to collapse into a single point connected to other polygons, and what the most efficient combination of it is. So that flat areas, like the bottom of the base, which right now is, lots of polygons, are going to be turned into like 20 or 30. Whereas areas that are relatively detailed, like his chest or the handle, will be turned into a lot more polygons. So, we're going to turn off Dynamesh. All this does, it doesn't change anything except some of the features for blending things together don't work if that gets turned off. And we're going to click this custom button. I've set it to 50,000 points. This is a preset. It will do all of the calculations and then calculate what it needs to do to get down to 50,000 points or vertexes and about 100,000 polygons. So I click it, and it says analyzing mesh, and then it'll have an orange bar go across. If it goes to calculating at any point without reaching all the way across, something messed up. And that's when I find out my batteries are dead. Yay! That's why I've got plenty of batteries right here. Yay! Yay! Well, it's looking like it's working, which is a good thing. By the time I change the batteries, it should be at like 100,014 triangles. There, that feels better. And we're at 95. There we go. Reordering and then calculating. Writing file to disk. Then it'll be read go Z file. There it is. And we are at 100,066 polygons for this little gobbo. And it doesn't look like we lost any. You know, and this is probably, I'd say about 2.5 times, at least on my screen, 2.5 times what it'll actually print out as. But then when we go and look on the bottom, oh, look at that. It's only got like 20 or 30 polygons, not counting the absolute edges. But we look at the chest, and it's got a whole lot more. See? Frame. I'm going to zoom them out just a little bit. And I'm going to export. I got to go back to from Pixelogic to desktop. And go to 3D Printing Home, Meshes, Resculpt Minis, Broadcasts, Miniatures, New, Scythe Goblin figure. And that's our Scythe Goblin. Now, I mentioned that I wanted to do a turnaround video. Do y'all remember that? You are welcome, Andy, and I'm sorry I didn't see it when you posted it. Kim, you don't know how many times I screwed up when I first started doing sculpting for printing. I actually had to create morphs for the swords and anything with a shaft, like the staves and spears, to make the shafts thicker so that FDM could print them. Because they were too thin, too small, they just didn't work. So I had to make them thicker. All right, now we're going to start from his back. The reason for this is because the method that I use for converting from MPG to GIF, it occasionally skips a few. It occasionally loses a few frames at the end. So now I'm going to turn on dynamic perspective. You can see that it's very slight, but it's enough. Now up here on the top, movie. I click this little circle with the arrow, and it comes over here on the left. This is how to record a movie. I'm only going to explain how to do it for turntable because I don't know how to do it for nothing else. Over here it says window medium. What that means is it's going to record the entirety of the window at half resolution. That's not what we want. We want just the document window in here, but we want it at full resolution. We go down to modifiers. We change the recording frames per second to 30 and the playback frames per second to 30. You got to do it in that order. If you change the recording frames per second after, if you change the recording frames per second, it automatically changes the other proportionally. But then you can change it back down. So do the recording first, then playback. Then we close modifiers and overlay image. We do not want the ZBrush logo overlaid on top of our sculpt. And the title image, we don't want it to fade in or fade out because we want this to be a full looping cycle. Now, the material I'm using right now is a sculpting material by Shapula. I can't remember his name, but it's this one right here, the Sculpt E. That is what I have as my default material, my startup material. But this is a goblin. We want him to be a little bit green, so let's go up to color. Let's move this over to about here, and let's desaturate it a bit. That should be good. Now, if I wanted to take a long time, I would go up to render and change it to best. I don't want to take a long time. Right here, in the upper left-hand corner, it says turntable, and it records a turntable. So I click it. And it proceeds to give me a full 360-degree turntable render. Now, that is recording the turntable. I go to export, and I'm going to save it as Scythe Gobbo turnaround, or Scythe Goblin turn. Now it plays it again, but you have to let it completely play because it's recording it as it's presenting these images. Now, this little sucker, we can go ahead. Let's break into here. Now I would take that in, and I would take it to a website I use called, I don't even remember the name of it. It's called easygif.com, and it's got option of video to GIF. And you can, you browse, you upload the file that you want to send. In this case, the .mpg, and up to 100 gig, which, or 100 meg. Sorry, 100 meg. Yeah, I can see that. And then when it comes up, you can say, okay, I want to keep it at the default thing. I want to make the background static because it doesn't change, and I want to have it go from beginning to 6.53333 frames, and then when you click convert to GIF, well, you get something. Save image. Like I was trying to say, you get something that looks kind of like this. Media file. And we pull it up from here. And there we go. As you can see at the very back of it, it skips a couple frames. But there is our turnaround, our turntable of our Scythe Goblin. Ain't that cool? Now, if you have an art background, you've probably been told, draw every day. Well, when it comes to sculpting miniatures, sculpt every day. There's other subjects you can learn that'll improve your sculpting, like for what I just did today, anatomy. You don't need to know the function of the spleen, but you need to know the basic, structure for the skeleton and the muscles, and how they interact. Like when I bend my arm, this muscle contracts and this muscle extends. But when I extend it, this muscle is now relaxed and this muscle is now contracted. Things like that. It'll help you balance it. What actually is the structure of the chest and back? Because that's things a lot of comic book artists get wrong, which means most of us kids who grow up learning to draw by copying comic books get it wrong too. Bad habits. The hands, the tendons on the back of the hand, the two little tendons right here that some of us have and not everyone does. What is the function of the little divot right here? And yes, I know I've got a little dark spot on my elbow. Long story. It's resting on this black, stupid tear arms. Anyway, things like that. The draping of cloth. The wood thing that we did onto the handle of the scythe is kind of more of a impressionistic thing. A lot of miniature sculpting is very similar to what happens if you take impressionism and realism and go so yeah. Anyway, it is now 9:58. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to be logging off of here. I'm going to be sculpt for about an hour a day. How about that? Hubby might appreciate it better if you do it just 1 hour a day. Anyway, so I'm going to do the usual, hold up my hand and count down and log out and then whip this guy, get a decent frontal, action render of the figure and put him up on Thingiverse. Bam! You are welcome and good night. And number one, Anycubic Photon easy mode for printing minis. And number two, don't forget that the Kickstarter is still going on for Danny's Lost Dragons, and they got some amazing things in there. Some of those dragons just make me go, ew. And yes, I do have a couple pieces in there, but I don't make any money from this Kickstarter. I'm only supporting it because it's a good Kickstarter, and because it's got some amazing dragons, and Danny's an awesome guy. So, we have my hand up here. Well, actually, I need to refresh this real quick because, the whole problem with lag. So I'm going to hold my hand up here, and I'm going to count down. If you are not already, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, blah, blah. Got that out of the way. So that's going to be 5, 4, 3, a 2, and a 1. And let's see what we go. Good night.